Today, we are looking at that well-beloved miracle at the wedding in Cana, in which Jesus turns water into wine. How many of you who have been on a tour of the Holy Land have stopped in the village of Cana to renew your wedding vows? The bride and groom are not the focus here, however. The abundance of fine wine is. Jesus performs a miracle at the wedding banquet and keeps the party going in this exclusive story found only in John. In John's Gospel, miracles are called signs. Cana is the first sign in Jesus' ministry that reveals his glory, hence its inclusion in the lectionary for Epiphany, the season of revelations of the glory of God in Jesus Christ. A sign points to something beyond itself, and that is very important to John because he wants us to understand what these miracles mean, not just what they are in themselves, how what Jesus did revealed his glory, the Word made flesh who dwelt among us. But before we explore what Jesus' miracle at a wedding in Cana might mean, I can tell you what it meant to one little boy. Years ago, when Johnny Carson was the host of the Tonight Show, he interviewed an 8-year-old boy. The young man was asked to appear because he had rescued 2 friends in a coal mine outside his hometown in West Virginia. As Johnny questioned the boy, it became apparent to him and the audience that the young man was a Christian. So Johnny asked him if he had attended Sunday school. And when the boy said he did, Johnny inquired, "What are you learning in Sunday school?" "Last week," came the reply, "our lesson was about when Jesus went to a wedding and turned water into wine." The audience laughed, but Johnny tried to keep a straight face, and then he said, "And what did you learn from that story?" And the boy squirmed in his chair. It was apparent he hadn't thought about this. But then he lifted up his face and answered, "If you're going to have a wedding, make sure you invite Jesus." So Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding in the small village of Cana, not too far from Capernaum in Galilee. Mary was there as well, but she's referred to only as the mother of Jesus, not by name. And it does not say she's invited. Perhaps she was helping relatives with the wedding. In any event, she's the one who notices and tells Jesus that the wine has run out, which was a very embarrassing, even shameful situation for the bridegroom, who was the host of what were often week-long celebrations. So she then tells the servants to do whatever he tells you to do. And Jesus tells them to fill the 6 stone jars set aside for purification rites, like washing hands, utensils, cups, plates. They are to fill them up to the brim with water. Now, these are huge jars. Each holds about 25 to 30 gallons of water, and I can just imagine the amount of work it probably took to fill those jars to the top. How many trips to the river or the well? They then take a sample to the wine steward. He samples what they brought him and is amazed because what he tastes is incredibly fine wine. And he assumes the bridegroom has saved this excellent wine until now. After the celebration that's been going on for some time, everyone, he exclaims, always saves the inferior wine till last, but you have kept the good wine until now. This action all takes place behind the scenes. It's not in public. The wine steward has no idea about its miraculous source. Only the servants know, and maybe only 1 or 2 of them. But the disciples who have been with Jesus for a while have the eyes to see this miracle of water changed into wine and they recognize it for the sign that it is, and they respond with faith. John sums it up by declaring, Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Now, a marriage feast is a time of consummation and joy, and this first sign of Jesus' glory is a highly developed symbolic story. For the importance of the wedding setting is that a wedding banquet was a prophetic image of the time of fulfillment, a messianic time. As Isaiah declared, "On this mountain the Lord of hosts will make for all peoples a feast of rich food, a feast of well-aged wines, a rich food filled with marrow, of well-aged wine strained clear." John is telling us that what Jesus ushers in with this first sign is something miraculously new and different from anything that it has ever been before. Now, this change of water into wine was quick, instantaneous, but we know most change is not. Change is usually more gradual over time, often infinitesimal. One step forward, 2 steps back, half a step forward, and we can get pretty discouraged. A friend reminded me of Sam Cooke's song from 1964, "Change is Gonna Come." There's a lyric video that was made of it 3 years ago in honor of what would be Cooke's 85th birthday, and you can see it on YouTube, and I recommend it. For there are stirring images from over the years of demonstrations and gatherings for civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, signs saying equal work for equal pay, don't shoot, against apartheid, Nelson Mandela in jail, and then standing beside President Clinton, a Middle East war scene, refugees being lifted out of the water, people linking arms, swaying and singing together. And the video opens with a long shot of the thousands of people gathered down the mall and around the Washington Monument reflecting pool in the 1963 March on Washington for jobs and freedom. And I think this probably inspired Cooke's lyrics. That is when the great civil rights leader, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., delivered his iconic, soaring speech, "I have a dream." Tomorrow, our nation honors Dr. King. And when I reread this speech, I was struck by the many images with which he evoked the joy, the hope, and consummation of the wedding banquet, the coming together of all people in the Messianic age. So listen as I read some of the lines in his speech, as Dr. King's dream evokes the dream of God. "I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream that one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we'll be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Dr. King's speech that day was a moment when heaven was opened and the transforming power of God's love burst into the present world. Let us never forget, almost 56 years later, when we still await those changes to be consummated fully, that we too are part of the beloved community in which we connect to each other and heal and support one another through our weaknesses and strengths, that we too are invited to the wedding banquet. In a few moments, let us come together to the table here, set with bread and wine in the light of candles, reminded that we too are called to be part of the change that is going to come. Reminded that we too are called to be part of the change that is going to come. Amen.